It is finally here, the next Warbond for Helldivers 2. So we're going to do an in-depth breakdown. Let's watch the trailer first. I see a sword. Out on May the 15th. You guys can see it right there. I want to now break down this Warbond. This is going to be actually the first Warbond, guys, where we only have one weapon. I mean, one gun, right? We have 2 melee weapons, and we're going to talk about that as well. Now, the designs are really cool. I'm going to say that right away. So it does feel like, in terms of like, you know, for the players that enjoy role play aspect of the game and whatnot, this is going to be pretty cool. Once again, the armor designs are nice. The sword design is really nice as well. So then we have some action here. You can clearly see that this weapon is like full auto. So it's not like single fire and reload, which I'm assuming that it's also going to mean that it's going to have some kind of magazine, hopefully a big magazine at that. And hopefully, you know, this is where it's going to be very important that the weapon is either medium pen or heavy pen if we're talking from the performance side of these weapons, right? Yeah, so the new weapons, it says, and then they show us the sword and the gun itself. When they're talking about the weapons, they're not showing the spear though, so we're gonna have to take a look at that. Oh, I believe that's a stratagem, which is another topic that I want to discuss. Yeah, you can clearly see that it had a magazine. Boom, just right there. The marksman rifle. Marksman rifles in general, especially against the bugs, don't do really well for obvious reasons, right? Like you're getting overwhelmed all the time. So it's going to be interesting how strong this one is. It does have a melee on it, so the fact that you're going to be able to deal that kind of damage is also interesting. Like right here, I'm not going to lie. Yeah, one of those shots actually reflected as well. So I don't know. I'm hoping this is at least medium pen, okay? This is going to be just my honest thoughts about this weapon, because if it is light pen, there's not going to be much reason to use it, okay? Now, keep in mind, I'm coming from the perspective of playing on the highest difficulty and effectiveness of the weapon, right? Like if you want to role play, you can use a spoon, you'll be just fine. That doesn't really matter, okay? So let's keep going. Okay, that's pretty cool. The animation is pretty nice. Once again, it's going to come down to, I don't see any stagger, I believe. I'm going to break that down one more time. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he like kind of backed off or anything like you would see with some of the other weapons that are already in the game, such as the lance, for example. Like when you tag them, they kind of back off immediately and then they get stunned, obviously. And that is one thing that is going to make it very hard to sell melee weapons just on their own, because you already have the lance, which is incredibly strong, and a lot of people just sleep on it, right? The reason, you guys know, I always said like I want a sword and a shield. You know what I mean? Because I think sword and shield would make the perfect combination of something that you could actually utilize against the bugs, right? Because at the end of the day, if you just use the sword and there's no CC, it becomes just a role-playing item, not an effective item for gameplay. But once again, it's going to depend on how much damage. This thing might do 450 damage per hit. Like, I have no clue, right? So, we'll figure it out. The armor looks sick. I will say that, like, for all the people that, you know, are all about the drip and they do not care about the perks at all, I think you're in for a treat. I think this is probably one of the more cool looking armors in the game, like the cape, the colors, everything really goes well. The helmet is nice. I'm going to move my camera here to the middle so you guys see the other armor as well. But yeah, I think the designs overall are pretty cool. And depending on how good the other weapons are when it comes to actual stats, we're probably going to see if this ends up being another kind of like a truth enforcer situation where the best thing about it is the armor. You know what I mean? And like designs in general. Then we have next up the grenade. Okay, that looks cool. That actually looks cool. I want to go back to that real quick. That looked incredible. I'm not going to lie. Let's see. So he throws it like, I think it just falls to the ground normally. It doesn't start spinning in the air. Then it starts like going crazy. Then there's an explosion. Now the question is going to be how big the area is, like where it spreads the fire, because it's essentially, I believe it's an incendiary grenade, it said, right? Am I tripping? Throwable pyrotech. Well, yeah, it's a pyro grenade. So it should like spread fire, obviously. The question is going to be how big is the radius? Because fire is very effective against the bugs. But realistically, this is going to be mostly not like a full-on crowd control tool, but something that will like try to keep the enemies from you over some time, right? So you want to spread fire on the ground and make it harder for the bugs to get to you. Now, the question is it going to be more valuable than something like the gas grenades when it comes to crowd control? Because currently gas grenades are absolutely ridiculously strong and extremely fun to use against the bugs. And it's very tough to really consider using any kind of other grenade. Like that's the truth. You know, once again, max difficulty, if you're trying to play at max difficulty and you're trying to get through the missions as easily as possible and you're trying to make powerful builds. I'm not talking about like role play and whatnot. If that's what you want to do, go ahead. Then any grenade can work, right? So a lot of these things really depend on the stats that these items come with. And then we're going to test all of this live on stream, by the way. Make sure to be there. It's going to be a good time. We're going to test every single item against the enemies. I'm going to be honest, though. I feel like this Warbond is mainly going to be for the bugs since we do have 2 melee weapons. And that's another point that is going to make it a little bit of a hard sell, in my opinion, is that it is only essentially one faction oriented. However, I might take that a little bit back, because if the weapon is medium pen and it's good, depending on how much damage it does, it could be really effective against the automatons, right? But I think that if it's light pen, the value of it decreases tremendously, okay? Now let's talk about the stratagem, One True Flag. Now this is a kind of a weird one because it's a melee weapon essentially, I believe. Let's take a look. You see this hit right here. You clearly can see stagger. The flag is a cool thing. The stagger is nice, but it does not die in one hit, which means that it's not like probably much higher damage than the lance. Now, the question is going to be, why would I use a stratagem flag weapon or melee weapon, sorry, instead of a secondary weapon that I can just pick up? You know what I mean? Which, even if it does less damage, I'm talking about the lance, it has incredible crowd control, right? And that puts it apart from any melee weapon in the game. Like, you just hit them and they just take they just get stunned, right? I'm gonna move the camera here. My apologies, I didn't realize it was in the way, so I'm gonna play this a little bit back. Boom, let's take a look at that. Boom, once again, you see that the medium armored bug does not die in one hit. So I'm assuming it's around the same damage as the lance as mentioned. But giving up a stratagem slot for a melee weapon that you're going to use instead of a lance that is just a secondary weapon and has better crowd control, that's going to be a tough one for me personally. Once again, if it's just about role-playing, running around with the flag, incredible. That's awesome. If you love to do that, go ahead and do that. In terms of performance, there will be most likely no reason to use this unless I'm missing something. And maybe because you have the flag, you carry some kind of buff effect with you, right? Like maybe when you're carrying this thing, you're giving your teammates 10% or 20 or 30, I don't know, 50, 700, I don't know, percent increased melee damage, right? And that will give you the ability to kind of run around as a melee team, like a team of absolutely ridiculously powerful Helldivers with like lances or even this weapon, or one teammate has this and all the others have whatever melee weapons they want, and you're just running around and chopping these bugs up. Like that could be it, right? Like I don't know. If that is the case, that's awesome, because I love items that give you the ability to kind of open up new play styles within the game, which would be, dude, I'm going to grab the flag, bring your melee weapons, let's go crazy. You know what I mean? But if that's not the case, and if this is just a melee weapon with a flag on it, then it's a very hard sell because it's a stratagem on top of everything, okay? I hope that makes sense. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, by the way. So overall, what do I think from the trailer? Well, first of all, this is going to be the first Warbond where we get one gun, right? And like 2 melee weapons, which, as I mentioned, is kind of a hard sell because it's pretty much directed to one faction, which is going to be the bugs. You're not going to be using melee weapons against the bots. Once again, keep in mind, I'm talking in terms of performance, right? You're just, it's not effective. The armor looks cool. There's no doubt about it. For roleplay, this seems to be one of the better kind of Warbonds, right? Like if you're all about the looks and just, you know, for democracy and running in with a flag, yes, you're going to have fun. The grenade looks interesting. Once again, it's going to depend on the damage. We're going to test all of that out live on stream the second this comes out. We're going to have everything unlocked immediately. And I'm just going to give you guys my honest opinion on the performance of these weapons on the highest difficulties of the game. And from there on, you guys do what you guys do. You know what I mean? Like if you want to purchase it, go for it. If not, that's going to be up to you. My job is to give you the honest truth about the performance of these tools that we get on max difficulty, and I will always put the truth above everything. So yeah, that's about it. Make sure to be there on the 15th as we test all of these items live on stream. Appreciate you all. I love you all. Stay positive, stay disciplined, and I'll see you all on the next one. Oh, and make sure to let me know what you guys think about the Warbond so far.